of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tristero. Chapter 50. Game, set. Keeping up appearances within the cafe had been, thankfully, doable. Tomura still stayed the night, went back to his apartment to work, and returned in the afternoons. He'd met with Kurogiri on Wednesday morning, the regal-looking servant having confirmed that he would be picked up at 8 on Thursday from that address. He'd packed up a bag that the Nomu had taken and informed him about his plan to leave in the middle of the night. He'd told him that he couldn't go through with Sensei's suggestion and just wanted to get away without a trace, so no one followed him or tried to stop him. As far as the boy was aware, he thought that All for One's most slippery associate had believed him. He'd also been told to bring some more food from the Noroneko if you can. He had a good mind to poison the cake and gift wrap it for the old bastard, but regardless of his personal feelings, murder was wrong, and if the Food Practices and Standards Agency ever found out, well, that'd be his certification out of the window and a stretch in prison besides. Shigaraki-san wasn't worth him being taken from his kids or losing his livelihood, and so that evening his apartment was at full capacity. Itoshi was safely with Inko and Nizuku, the three of them being watched over by 5 police force officers and 2 pro-heroes from Nezu's school. The tots had been thrilled. He boxed up a few pieces of leftover cake and a scone. It'd look suspicious if Tomura managed to snag a full cake or pie at nighttime, wouldn't it? The box, similarly, didn't have any kind of tracking device or bug. Everything needed to be normal. Then he'd set the alarm, switched off the lights, and gone to bed. Loud Cloud, Midnight, and Present Mike were happily camped out in the living room, which housed the TV. They were lazing on cushions and a few air mattresses that they'd managed to sneak in as well. Dabi and Tomura were in Itoshi's room. Because it was next to his, he wanted them close. Whilst Kiere Kuruga, a friendly enough woman who'd fawned over his youngest teen's room, gotten herself settled, easily captured the teen's shape, borrowed an outfit, and begged him for his strawberry shortcake recipe. As far as he was concerned, she could have the recipe and unlimited access to the dessert for the rest of her life, so long as they all came out of the other side of this mess. Naomasa and Sanza were also staying the night. He'd made them all a slap-up evening meal. That had been easy enough to get upstairs with no one seeing him and knowing that it wasn't just the standard for occupants of the living space. And they tried to relax, tried to rest, tried to prepare for a battle that none of them could afford to lose. Then the lights went out when they normally did, and at 1:07, Kuruga made her escape in Tomura's copy body. She'd pushed open the bedroom's window, shimmied down the pipe, and quietly made her way into the night, complete with the boy's phone, tablet, a pair of quirk-restricting gloves, and a small satchel filled with personal effects. They could replace such things, couldn't they? As she'd reached the apartment, she'd sent a text to Dabi's phone, a sign to them that she'd made it, gotten inside, and that she'd experienced no problems, to say goodbye, to apologize for disappearing, to send his well wishes to Hitoshi and him. It was something that the shortest of his 2 teens had scripted himself. It was heartbreaking to read, to think that this could have really happened. Then, at 5:45, he'd gone for his regular run. No dads, luckily they didn't always join him, in his trusty black shorts, t-shirt, and sneakers. He looped the apartment complex 3 times before hopping into a concealed van, whilst a look-alike hopped out. Luckily, his hair and skin coloring, build, and height were still pretty common, and at the pace the other was running, anyone watching the police force officer would have been hard-pressed to tell them apart. As the van pulled away, he was handed a Kevlar vest to strap on, a 2-way earpiece to wear, and once the technology was fitted, he'd nodded at the officers surrounding him, and Sir Night-Eye sat in the only chair at the back of the pizza truck, his hands tapping away on a laptop, and rested his eyes. However, a few seconds into their journey, he felt a pleased smile pull at his lips. This is going to be one hell of a reunion, oh. Naoki's voice hummed at him across the secure channel. And is it true, Aizawa, do my younger siblings get to call you Sho? That's not very fair. Cat dad. He'd snickered. They'd chatted a little, and then, at Sir Night-Eye's instruction, radio silence had hushed them all, whilst that fancy top-of-the-range computer projected a 3D display into the darkened van's interior to show them their plan in action. The undercover agents staking out the airfields told them via encrypted text that there was a deep maroon Bentley Mousseline on approach to Iberi's airstrip, just as Tomura had thought, and thanks to Tomoko's quirk, they had identified Shigaraki, who was traveling with a Nomu driver, Kurogiri, and a subdued, fidgeting blonde man who they couldn't name. However, All Might's sidekick had typed back that he believed this person could be twice. Securing him alive and unharmed, if at all possible, was rapidly posted near the top of the priority list. As far as they were concerned, this man was a captive in need of rescue and care. To be imprisoned by All for One and forced to replicate himself or other clones for the purpose of experiments, and goodness only knew what else, well, no one should be forced to do such things. Also, the officers snooping around Jaku Hospital were pretty sure that they'd found evidence of some kind of underground facility. Several pros had been dispatched, including a man called Cementos. If there was anything concealed beneath the medical institution, then his quirk would be able to find it, reveal it, and still maintain the integrity of the building, ensuring that patients and staff would be safe. Small mercies. Then, at 7:55, everyone was in position and quietly, stealthily getting ready to do their parts, as Ragdoll continued to observe their quarry from afar, whilst the undercover police force officers diligently prepared the villain's private jet, brought him his breakfast, and stowed his luggage just like the normal employees who'd been previously staffed there would. Come 8 o'clock, though, Tomura had been collected. The undercover agents had watched and reported the car's movements as it drove through the streets, joined a highway, and followed the most obvious route to Iberis' small yet well-maintained airfield that only serviced smaller craft once every couple of weeks or so. At 8:09, Kuruga struck alongside the posse of pro heroes that All Might had called upon. 8:10 was their mark to move. Humming to himself his second cigar, the finest Cuban Hoyo de Monterrey that the money could buy, and well worth its expensive price tag, all but gone, Shigaraki folded his newspaper, placed it atop his dirty dishes, and let out a content sigh. The private room that he used in the small luxury hangar was a comfortably air-conditioned one, and as his delicious meal of grlakva, poached eggs, and whole wheat toast topped with caviar settled down amidst a few bubbles from the delectable Dom Perignon white gold Jeroboam he'd been supping, he found himself decidedly pleased. For what good was power and wealth if you didn't get to treat yourself every so often? Sensei, turning his head to where Boibagarawawa Jin sat across from him, his nervous disposition all the worse for being made to fly in a small craft. All for One sighed out a, "Yes." Why the poor thing was so terrified of heights when he would be there to save his wretched life was simply beyond him. When we get to where we're going, I could rest for a while, right? Sleep is for losers. Nodding in mock sympathy, the poor man, more of a boy really, just turned 21 and far less competent than a certain café owner he'd recently gotten to know, was curled into his chair pensively, the dry toast he'd been given untouched, the glass of orange juice unsipped, his eyes tired and roving. "My dear Jin," he soothed, "when we get to our summer home, you can have all the rest you like," he assured. "You can go for walks in the woods, you can watch your favorite melodramas on the television, why, you can even create a clone for yourself to keep you company. How's that, If it wasn't for his quirk being so useful, then he'd have disposed of him by now. He could steal it and use him himself, of course. However, looking at this fool's mental state, it was better to simply use and exploit him and not put his own mental acuity in danger. He could have left him with Garaki, but with All Might having spotted him, he was no doubt tearing up the city's underground, fruitlessly searching for him. Simple-minded brute. It was better to keep his assets close to his chest, and so he, Kurogiri, Tomura, and Jin would sojourn to Hokkaido for a while. It was cooler and quieter up there after all, wasn't it? But thank you, sir. That's not fair. Maybe it was better to give him a sedative now. The other's shifts in personality were already starting to grit on his nerves. He Shigaraki! Sucking in a breath before expelling it. Wow! All for One slowly stood whilst Kurogiri manifested at his side obediently the people he paid to prepare his jet skyrping. Good help was so hard to find these days. As Yagi Toshinari, that arrogant son of a whore, appeared on the runway, his body walking with a group of similarly costumed idiots. And I was having such a lovely morning. he sighed as he walked toward the sliding glass doors which parted at gesture from his hands, his relaxed form stepping into the warm summer morning beneath its flawless azure sky. What a lovely day for carnage! But before he amused himself with that man and the piteous fools grandstanding before him, he needed to keep a certain dog in his place, didn't he? Jin, stay where you are. Do not attempt to leave, or I'll cut off your arms and legs. Do you understand? He called over his shoulder, whilst his most competent Nomu strolled beside him, and 6 more started to gush free from the tears he'd made in reality, their writhing bodies owling as they burst through the grey spray of his teleportation quirk. You got it, boss. Why are you so mean to me? Then, his Italian leather shoes lightly scuffing on the tarmac, he looked around the empty airstrip. Very clever. All might, he called, his hands gesturing around. No innocent civilians, no buildings, no easy way for me to manipulate the odds in my favor. Ah! Could it be that you're finally learning? He laughed. Ah, and you brought your surviving mentor and sidekick with you, eh? How very considerate of you to bring me 2 of your precious people to crush, he admitted before sizing up the other pros. Some faces he recognized, some he didn't, but upon reflection he supposed it didn't matter. They'd all look the same in one big bloody pile of mangled limbs, wouldn't they? Currently dark eyes trained upon the scene, his body and that of full throttle, concealed in a storm drain, Shouta peered through the raised grid, his limbs loose, his mind focused as the pro-hero behind him placed her dainty gloveless hands upon his shoulders while they waited the signal. Right now, All Might and the powerful long-range fighters bracketing him, 4 on each side, alongside Gran Torino and Sonidai, were drawing all for one and Kurogiri out into the open so that the other concealed pros, which included Mitsuki, he told her to be damn careful. She told him she wouldn't die before she tried all of his recipes, could strike too. He could see the bastard, and thanks to the network of drains they'd mapped, he and his little brother's mentor could scurry about out of sight to sneak attack if this position became compromised. All they had to hope was that neither Japan's #1 villain or his friends got wise to them and ripped up the floor. With any luck, they could subdue him before it came to that. It's over, Shigaraki! The bronze hero called. No capes, no gimmicks, his form swathed in the predominantly red bodysuit he tended to wear for his most dire battles. Surrender to our custody now, and you'll be given leniency. You have my word. Huh! Leniency. Is that what you're offering, old friend? The fiend laughed. It is you who should surrender, he countered. Do so now, and maybe I'll grant you a swift death, as opposed to a slow and agonizing one. CD and FT stand by. Swallowing thickly, he closed his eyes. He had a little bottle of eye drops in his hands, ready to use so as to prolong his ability, took a breath, and waited. Naoki was concealed within the private jet, devoid of fuel, 3 other pros with trapping capabilities hidden with him, and his children were safe. He'd been allowed to have 1 quick message to and from Dabi. Hitoshi and Izuku were at school. All of the tots were. A selection of pros were roaming around nearby. He'd insisted upon it, and All Might had made it happen. And he and Tomura had seen to the breakfast crowd with the pros. They were fine. They were okay. He'd see them soon. So that's your final answer? You'll not concede? I'll see you dead at my feet, Yagi. You and everyone you care about. CD and FT, you are a go. Understood. The second that he'd seen Shigaraki openly flinch, his shadow-encrusted lackey similarly bonking, Toshinori and his fellows moved. 13 was rushed onto the scene from behind the hangar by speedboat, all 10 digits of their suit open to start sucking Kurogiri up, whilst all for one stuttered, stumbled, and snarled alongside the roaring Nomu as they were wrapped, bound, snagged, or thrown to the floor under heavy fire. When he connected a full force Texas smash into the old fiend's face, he could have sworn that he'd heard Nana cheering him on in the recesses of One for All and amid the voice of his predecessors. However, a one-punch knockout would always be a pipe dream when facing off against this ancient evil, and even though Shota-kun had given him a good 22 seconds worth of breathing room, the 4 hits he'd landed had only given the man a bloody nose and black eye, but it was a great start. How dare you! The crime lord and his warp gate user, whom the eatery owner was to focus on, the pros were wrangling the Nomu well enough on their own, thank God. Hadn't known what to do or where to turn, for within a split second his powers were erased once more. Double Detroit smash! 13 and 5 of the pros were shrinking the shadowed menace down, his ability to move about as he pleased completely nullified as he staggered and struggled to remain conscious. New Hampshire smash! Shotokun's sibling was continually lacing and weaving Sensei's legs, keeping him off balance while Snipe's bullets hit key pressure points. Mitsuki's explosions burned and tarnished around a myriad of hissing lasers, shifting sand, pulses of electricity, and Best Jeanist's powerful threads. At the rate his foe was taking damage, every second that their secret weapons quirk wasn't trained on it was dedicated to healing the damage and trying to escape. Nebraska smash! Not that he'd allow that, not that he'd miss this chance, not that he'd stand for any of his friends and colleagues to be hurt. That is enough! Yelping, all of them suddenly scouted and pressed to the floor under an ungodly force. Yagi hissed, his eyes wild, as he got up despite the pressure, a worried look cast to where Shotokun in full throttle were. Shit! All for one had created a crater where he'd stood, the area around him full of dust, debris, and dirt. CT and FT are fine. Moving to viewpoint B. Kodogiri is down. Hostage designated T is secure. 3 Nomu are down. Continue firing. CD, ETA, 1 minute. Oh, thank God, he busted! He roared whilst 3 of his associates were up and attacking once more, Kamui Wood's branches intertwining with Best Jeanist powers whilst more bullets and explosions rained down. They had to keep him down. They had to pin him quickly. His friend would be able to assist them soon. They just had to hold on until then. They could do this. Carolina smash! He knew that they would. Scrambling through the storm drain, both of them cursing and moving at speed, should have found himself sending a silent prayer thanks to Loud Cloud. You might need these, mister. I don't want to be a pro. Oh, goggles. Why? Your cloak only works where you can see someone, right? Well, I figured with these on, not only will you look cool, but you'll keep your eyes free of dust, and, well, we all have a pair, so it'll kind of be like we're fighting alongside you, you know? He hugged him, thanked him, and passed them on to Bubble Girl when she left Wednesday evening after her regular coffee stop and cram session. They'd been waiting for him in the van, and now thanks to them and Cloud Quirk users. Call me Obero, okay? Thoughtfulness. After a quick wipe of them, he could see clearly. No grit or debris thrown up by Sensei's temper tantrum had gotten anywhere near his eyes, which meant as soon as he and the woman, light on her feet, eager to start again, behind him reached their next raised grid, he focused his bloody gaze on the son of a bitch and watched him crumble to the ground. Kurogiri, thank God, was no longer an issue, and so he'd focus every bit of his protective righteous anger on the old fiend who'd ruined Tomer's life, slaughtered thousands without a care, and plagued All Might's every waking, dreaming moment. Slaughtered thousands without a care, and plagued All Might's every waking and dreaming moment. He would not allow him to bring harm to anybody else he cared about. They would stop him here, and they would stop him together. Or so he'd thought.